Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. Well, the United States government and the Army spends a lot of money every year paying for scholarships to send ROTC candidates to college. And candidly, I don't think they're getting the results that they would want to get. In fact, overall, I think about 52% of ROTC scholarships offered in the Army result in someone graduating and commissioning. Well, our guest today is Sean Lanier. He's an Army veteran, a VMI graduate, which I think you'll get no argument from me, the finest military school in the nation, which produces the best officers by far, but I'm biased. But Sean is the founder and executive director of Resolve Solutions, doing something about these scholarships. Sean, welcome to the program, your second time on the Spotlight. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Bob. Looking forward to it.
Well, it's good to catch up. Congratulations. You were appointed to the VMI Board of Visitors last year. Big job, but congratulations on that. I know that you are loving serving the Institute and getting back to Lexington.
I appreciate it. Definitely my hair is getting grayer, but seeing the cadets when they go through their process, you know, the deal, the maturation and graduation process, it's all worth it. It's all about the cadets.
That's right. Well, and again, I just wanted to throw a congratulations out that. Let's talk some numbers. Let's talk about what's been going on in the historically Black colleges and universities, and you know, how did this idea kind of come around?
Well, actually, we talked about before. For me, it started off at VMI, and VMI talked to the mission director of admissions, Vern Beitzel. And then after the diversity conference, ended up talking to General P, and I said, "Hey, look, you know, what are you looking for?" And he would say, "Hey, I need some help here recruiting, retaining, graduating, commissioning African American males." And I said, "Well, you know, it's a little bit picture." And they said, "Hey, focus on this one, and we'll deal with it." But once I started working with VMI and looking at the processes, and you know, understanding that I was part of the old core now, and looking at nuanced differences. And I was working at the Pentagon. I started working with my boss, Major General Christopher Sharpston, and he used to work for West Point Admissions. And I started looking at it and thinking that from a strategic level, from the Army wide, not just from VMI perspective. And then it started making more sense. If you had the big picture, and then you reverse engineer it and get down to the smaller picture. And then for me, growing up next to an HBCU, Virginia State University, so I had that aspect also, and those resources that I can tap into. I started to understand, like, hey, when you start recruiting a kid, particularly for VMI, for every kid that I get at VMI, I would find 3, 5, 10 individuals that, hey, VMI is not for me at Academy. I want to go to college. I want to have a regular college experience, but I want to serve. So you understand how they complemented each other. And you started figuring out, well, these are the challenges HBCUs have. These are the challenges that see military colleges like VMI, which has a very distinct lifestyle difference, and then there's a different culture at the service academies, but you essentially had the same kid that's willing to serve. So once you started putting those pieces together and see how they offset each other, I kind of looked at it like, when I'm talking to a counselor, it's great if they have a kid from VMI, but if I don't have that kid get into a Hampton University, I don't have that kid get into a Radford or University of Texas San Antonio, they're not going to be as interested to give me a kid, because they're trying to help that kid out right now with their interests. So once I started helping out counselors, coaches, veterans, helping them help their kids get to the schools of their choices, I started getting better qualified cadets for VMI that wanted to be there. They understood what our model, they understood our mission better, so they were able to give us better prospects.
You got to want to go to VMI. We know that, but how do you sort of assess the fit and, you know, figure out a kid needs to go to one school or another? Are you actually helping them find the right location or in collaboration with that high school guidance counselor?
I think that everything, and you're from, I'm from Petersburg, you're from Richmond, you know how it is. It's all about relationships. Once you establish a relationship, and I think sometimes with recruiting, people look at it, I look at it a little bit different. I'm not as interested in talking to a kid. I'm looking at talking to the influencers, because a lot of the kids that we're looking for, specifically the VMI, are scholar athlete leaders. So they're not always going to be at the college fair. They're going to be doing 2 to 3 sports or doing some type of activity. They're going to be leaders in, some type of club activity. So sometimes they're not just hanging out in the cafeteria when you come there and talk to them. So if you talk to those influencers, and again, it's the counselors, the athletic directors, the JRTC instructors, they know the kids that are the good kids. They know the kids that once you explain to them what we're looking for, they're going to help find a better fit for you. So once you establish that relationship, and sometimes it's automatic, sometimes it may take a year or two of repeated visits and getting that message across. But it got to the point where I started getting phone calls say, hey, Sean, I have a kid for you. Hey, not a VMI kid, but hey, they're interested in going to JMU, or hey, they're interested in going to Norfolk State. What can you do to help them out? Okay,
so then you can help them get a scholarship, an ROTC scholarship to go to JMU. They're happy where they're going to college, and they're also getting the benefits of it.
Yes, all of the scholarships are nationally ranked. They go to the school of your choice. I think the Air Force sometimes has some designated, and the Navy has some designated schools and slots because they're a little bit smaller. So they want to make sure those ROTC programs are filled. But by and large, for VMI or state supported school, the ROTC scholarship, particularly Army, can go anywhere as long as they have a program.
Let's talk some numbers. How many people now have you served with through Resolve Solutions?
Well, by our stats, we've helped about 550 kids from 23 states earn about $51 million in offers. And that's ROTC scholarships. And we also have some kids that go to service academies.
$51 million in scholarships for 550 kids. And how's the track? How long have you been doing it? They're starting to graduate now, right?
Yeah, we've been going at it unofficially since about 2014. So we have some kids that have served their 3 to 4 year commitment and now, starting their families, going to grad school. We have some kids that are finishing up medical school. Bethany King, actually, I shouldn't say Bethany King, she just got married last week. Bethany White, she would be graduating this May from dental school at West Virginia University, president of her class. She's a VMI class of 2014 grad, it's 2018 grad, excuse me. And she'll graduate in May dental school. Then she'll direct commission into the Army and become a captain and join up with her husband, who's a military police officer.
You guys have got some really good stories. Let's talk about the success rate, at Hampton University and Virginia State. We talked about, at the historically Black colleges and universities, we were having a low success rate. But what's going on at Hampton and Virginia State now?
Well, honestly, and again, the secret sauce that we talk about over and over again are relationships. We're about a 70% success rate at Virginia State University and Hampton University. But what people don't realize that Hampton University was the first school that gave me a college letter of acceptance. So there's always an affinity that I legitimately felt that I can go to college when I got that letter of acceptance from Hampton University. Didn't end up going there, but that relationship was there, and I served with a lot of officers that are Hampton grads. Virginia State University, I spent 3 years in Upward Bound, which is a college prep program on their campus. So, and my JRTC instructor, Sergeant Major Frost, he taught at Virginia State Army ROTC. So I saw that in the high school. So what also during that time, my line brother that I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was the professor of military science there, David Johnson, who was a combat engineer. He was then followed by Tony Rice, who's a West Point grad, but I served with in 3ID together in Iraq. So those relationships there, the reason why that's significant is because when they became the PMS, there was an automatic trust. They didn't think that I was coming in trying to upsert their program or tell them what to do. They saw me as value added and trying to help them get more kids. So we streamlined a lot of our conversations, and plus they were bat to bat. So there was a lot of continuity. So the relationships that I had with counselors and coaches, like when Tony came in on the ground, before he even got there, before he talked to Dave, I was talking to him when he was in Korea. So when he came and hit the ground running, he immediately started recruiting. Like when he got there over the summer, he started immediately recruiting in August as opposed to October, November. And those 2 to 3 months of just building relationships, beating the streets, really helped get their program up and running, because there was trust, not just from me, but then they came in, they understood the challenges there on the ground, and that just made it a lot better. So again, relationships matter. And I think, Virginia is one of those states where you still have to go and talk to the mom, meet the uncle, look the old man in the face and say, hey, I'm going to take care of your kid. And they got to believe that you're going to do it and know that you're going to do it and be a man of your word about it.
Honor, duty, service. At the VeteranCrowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the VeteranCrowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The VeteranCrowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Hey, you're listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. My guest is Sean Lanier, the founder and executive officer of Resolve Solutions. Sean, let's talk some numbers. What is an ROTC scholarship worth? And, let's talk about the lifetime earnings potential of somebody who goes to college and has one of these scholarships. I think that's an interesting number.
Well, you have to look at it as one big bucket. The Army has about $340 million at Cadet Command to spend on ROTC scholarships and marketing. The ROTC scholarship pays for full tuition and fees, not room and board. So really the value of the scholarship depends on the school that they go to. Obviously, schools in the Northeast are more expensive, so that's going to take more money out of the bucket. But let's just
pay out-of-state tuition if you go out of state too, right?
Yes, that translates. Now for the parents out there, that translates into about 52% of total cost in state, and about 86% out of state.
It's a huge number.
Huge. I mean, huge.
And it's not a college loan. It's not a student loan either, right?
Nope. It's there. Uncle Sam will pay for it. Plus, you get this stipend of $420 a month, so that's another $4,000 in the kid's pocket. To pay for their.
It was only $100 a month back in my day. I don't know what it was for yours, Sean, but
yeah, I had $100, but for some reason, kids still spend it just as fast. So
that's right. It doesn't go as far. Okay.
But we'll just use VMI, for example. VMI for tuition and fees, room and board costs, and all the costs, it's about $30,000 in state and $60,000 out of state. So the ROTC scholarship basically roughly makes it about a $12,000 gap when you take out tuition and fees. So the Army will pay for $18,000 out of $30,000 in state, and then for out of state kid, they'll pay for $48,000 out of $60,000. Well, that's significant because if you look at a kid that's in a high need kid, a family makes below 70,000 or below 40,000, if they get Pell Grant, that's an additional 7,000. So when you start to look at kids in certain areas and improving there, you're really looking at the bottom line cost out of pocket of maybe $3,000 to $5,000 per kid. So that's why it's very significant for a school, particularly smaller schools like HBCUs or VMI, because that cost savings right there to get in from the ROTC dollars, now that allows financial aid to shift money to the other kids. And particularly for kids that are pursuing Navy commissions or Air Force commissions, those are smaller numbers. It's a little bit tougher for them to get those. Sometimes financial aid can now shift and provide more money to those kids pursuing those commissions also, and help them help them graduate with little to no debt.
Another number we've kicked around before is kind of the lifetime earnings potential of these individuals. They go out now they're in professional careers. Maybe they stay in the military, maybe they transition out. You made the example of the young lady going to dental school. When she finishes her time in the Army, we'd think she'd have a dental practice and probably be very successful. So what's the lifetime value of something like this? So you're kind of looking at the return on investment numbers.
Normally for alum like VMI, the average lifetime earned income is somewhere between, they do what they're supposed to do, about $2.5 to $5 million. It's going to be somewhere in that range depending on what they do. What a lot of kids and parents don't realize about the ROTC scholarship is that that accelerates you on that path, because not only are now coming out of school with little to no debt, so you can actually, that money that you were planning on having debt, you can actually invest in it. And if you actually use the GI Bill, you can get your advanced degree. Go get your, whether it's a MBA, at UVA, or going to Wharton School of Business, or going to law school. Well, that's also debt that you're not incurring, that you can also pay for. And then if you use the VA certificate to purchase a home with no money down, then you're looking at that. Because for a lot of kids like Bethany, going to medical school, there's a program called HPSP, Health Professional Scholarship Program, where the medical school is paid for, plus they give her give you $2,000 a month. So you can make $24,000 a year. And what we try to explain to kids, like, imagine you have medical undergraduate paid for, medical school paid for, but if you actually purchase a home or purchase property, you can manage that. And then imagine yourself at 30 years old, with superior credit, you own property that you have equity in it. Now imagine your peers that come out of school with debt, trying to start a family, trying to save for 10 to 20% down on the home.
Mm-hmm.
You're a couple of laps around the track.
Yeah, it's enormously valuable. And you talk about, Bethany. Bethany's got to have, since they've helped her with graduate school, does she have to stay in a little bit longer, have a longer commitment to the Army as a result of that?
Actually, no. For that program, it runs concurrent. So what I try to explain to kids, that for every year you're on ROTC scholarship for undergrad, you get 1 year commitment, 1 year duty. So if you go to the HPSP program, it's like the clock hasn't started until you come on active duty. So you're 3 years while you're in, 3 to 4 years while you're in medical school. The clock hasn't started yet until you finish, but it doesn't add it to each other.
Right.
For 8. Now it's still started at 4, but that's after you get done with your residency. So
it's really an enormously valuable start, though. I mean, that's the message here. And I think the people that go into the service, and I don't know, you probably experienced this. There were folks that we went to school with that we thought would be career officers in the military, and they couldn't wait to get out. And you got another guy that you thought would never stay in, and the next thing you know, they've been in the military 25 or 30 years. And it just never ceases to amaze that some people find a home. One example of that is Major General Cedric Wins, who I think thought he was going to go in the Army for 4 years, and retires as a major general, and now is a superintendent at VMI. Hey, Sean, let's talk a little bit about the future here. What are some of the goals for the next 3 to 5 years for Resolve Solutions?
Well, our ultimate goal is to get up to about 500 kids per year. That's about $40 million worth of ROTC scholarships. That if we can scale up to that over the next 3 to 5 years and build that platform, but the goal is to have about 70% success rate. That would give us a cohort of helping about 2,100 kids. It's a total of $160 million worth of scholarships. But more importantly, this is a generational wealth creator. You're talking about total lifetime earned income somewhere between $735 million to $1 billion for that group of kids. Now you're talking about also, if they use their VA certificate correctly, about $2 trillion worth of generational wealth creation through home ownership over the course of lifetime. And if we actually teach them how to give back at a 2% giving rate with that reduced debt upon graduation, that's about $14 to $30 million that goes back to their young alumni. So for a lot of schools out there who have an aging alumni population, or trying to get those donors up, these are the type of kids that you kind of want to build foundational models with, because they'll have that disposable income a lot earlier to kind of invest in it. And then they're very committed to service. So they're more apt to potentially give back.
We're creating good citizens in the process. You've gotten a lot of publicity lately. You've been in Harvard Business Review, the BNC channel. Tell us a little bit about that experience. How are you getting some press here?
Well, I will tell you that honestly, our luck kind of had the good fortune of turning because of VeteranCrowd Network. Your program actually helped us quite a bit. I think I forgot how many thousand views, but a few people listened to it, reached out to us and saw a couple of articles. We got reached out to from professor at TCU, Lance Betancourt, that saw our article, and he wrote the article for us for the Harvard Business Review. They got that out. And then that article came out at the same time. We got an opportunity to be on the BNC, the Black News Channel. And as of that came out 2 weeks ago, I think we have up to almost 17,000 views now. So each one of these opportunities to talk about the things, great things that these kids are doing and serving our nation and becoming citizens, it resonates with a smaller number of folks out there to help us tell our story.
I appreciate the shout out. I tell you, I'm trying to get the word out here through the VeteranCrowd network, and it's really good to have you back on here because I think what you're doing is transformative for these young people. I mean, to give them the guidance, to get them involved, and then to get people out there and get them commissioned into thinking about this as a viable alternative. And then the leadership lessons that we got in the military, just serve you for a lifetime. The disciplines that you got when you were being a helicopter pilot. Are you ready to get back on the stick? You kind of miss those days.
I do. I think my dream is that if we maybe get enough support where I can kind of have a couple of staff and do these things, I would like to get with the Civil Air Patrol, work on my private pilot's license. And my goal would be able to take a couple of kids and fly down to Shenandoah Valley, park the aircraft at Roanoke, have some lunch, drive up to VMI, take them on a tour, and then fly back when the sun sets. But I'm not quite there yet. Maybe in 5 years or so, we gotta put some work in. But I think that'd be kind of cool because honestly, when it comes down to talking to kids, as it's a conversation, and a lot of alumni did that plenty of times, taking kids down from Central Virginia or the 757, and the real trust comes in that conversation and just talking to someone. No cell phones. You're just sitting there talking. If you can do that in the car, you can do it in the airplane, in the flight. That's what resonates and builds that trust early on to help kids, solidify their decision of why they go to a place like VMI.
I have to admit, John, you reminded me of something. I made some pivotal decisions at VMI when I was 19 years old, and kind of changed my life trajectory. But I went into the Air Force ROTC department and wanted to fly. And I don't know if I've shared this story with you or not, but and I was like, you think I can get a pilot slot? You move me over. Hey, if I got on scholarship, right? If I want to fly, why not get a scholarship? Go on active duty, see that, and the answers were yes. And then, this is literally the decision that I made, though. They said to me, well, if you do this, you'll spend about 2 years, getting trained to be a pilot, and then you'll have a 9-year commitment after that. And I was 19 years old. I looked at 11 years and said, my God, that's, seemed like forever. And I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. And now that I'm, I'm not going to say how old I am, but old enough, you and I could probably stand in a corner for 11 years, right?
Yeah.
It goes by very quickly. So I think the importance of having some mentors, to help us make those life decisions is incredibly valuable. Hey, Sean, I really appreciate you coming back on the program. Thanks for doing this. Congratulations on being on the VMI Board of Visitors, and congratulations on the success of Resolve Solutions. We're going to put links to how you can get in touch with Sean on the show notes. But Sean, how do you want folks to get in touch with you?
Go to our website, resolvesolutions.org, or check us out on LinkedIn, or also on Instagram. And you'll see some wonderful stories about some of the kids, a few we mentioned today and some that you haven't met out there.
That's going to be fantastic. Like I said, we'll put links to the website and ways to get in touch with Sean, including social media. We'll also try to drop in some links to the Harvard Business Review article and some of the BNC channel interview that you did. We'll put those on there as well. Hey, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. Our guest again has been Sean Lanier of Resolve Solutions. Hey, Sean, appreciate you coming on the program. Throw that Army Bravo Zulu out to you, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.